That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Chimp Crazy, the new documentary phenomenon directed by Eric Goode, which finished unspooling across 4 episodes on September 8th, 2024, courtesy of Max.
We know Eric Goode from Tiger King.
He's a co-director of that, yes.
Anything else?
Several other things, but that's what he's primarily known for.
Okay, what is this docuseries about? Former nurse turned exotic animal broker Tonia Haddix spends her days caring for animals in captivity. However, her love for one chimpanzee in particular spins into a wild cat and mouse game with authorities and an animal rights group. What is your pull quote?
A fascinating analysis of a troubling underground subculture is eclipsed by a distended, sensationalistic approach in which all players in front of and behind the camera are at best questionable and at most exploitative.
Mine. Crazy is a good way to describe this bloated, scattered 4-part docuseries that would seemingly rather capitalize on the success of Tiger King with the eccentric subject Tonia Haddix than educate the masses on the dangers of domesticating exotic animals. This just felt like, I feel bad for the subject, Tonia Haddix.
I do too. She's certainly more sympathetic than the main players in Tiger King, but you again see them trying to establish that same kind of energy where it's her against PETA. And really what I feel for are the chimps that are held in captivity to these owners.
I guess the story is quite simple. It's bloated because there are a lot of tangential lines that kind of relate, but felt very unnecessary to me. But the main story is that Tonia Haddix is this lady who worked for someone who owned this like primate reserve in Missouri. And that woman was sued. So she decided to give all her stuff to Tonia Haddix to try to avoid the lawsuit. So now Tonia Haddix runs this Missouri primate reserve. But PETA gets wind of it, files a lawsuit claiming that she's not taking proper care of these chimpanzees, and the state comes and takes her chimpanzees away. However, there's one missing, a chimpanzee named Tonka. And Tonka's kind of famous because Tonka's been featured in a lot of movies, specifically a film from 1997 called Buddy.
That starred Rene Russo, Paul Rubens, and Alan Cumming.
Alan Cumming is a part of this docuseries because he claims that he loved that monkey and really...
They bonded.
And he was very concerned about him, even though he never checked on this monkey until he was told like 20 some years later that the monkey was alive and living in this reserve. So he, along with PETA, each give $10,000 as a reward to try to find the monkey. But they don't have to try too hard because... We learn at the end of episode 2, because there's a Zoom court trial because it's during COVID, that Tonia is found like not guilty of doing something with the chimpanzee because the judge says, I can't prove that he's alive, so...
Yes, she got caught up. PETA thought they had new evidence because a psychic called in a text message conversation where she said she was buying groceries for Tonka. Anyway.
But then, we can get into that. But anyway... So she thinks she's free and clear, closes her laptop, and while the mic is hot and the camera's on, she tells her husband, we won as long as we keep him hidden. So admitting that Tonka's alive. Because even as the viewing audience, I thought Tonka was dead because she had been saying that he died, which we can get into.
I didn't believe her.
You didn't believe her? I did.
Hell, no, not with that hair. No. I didn't believe a word she said.
So... the beginning of episode 3, we see that Tonka's living in her basement. There's more to it because she had moved and he didn't immediately go with her, blah, blah, blah. But, of course, the documentary crew tell the PETA lawyer, and of course, very quickly, she gets him taken away.
And there are all a bunch of events that happen that explain why the crew finally goes there. We also didn't explain that Eric Goode is already known to the community of exotic animal lovers, so nobody wants to talk to him. So he hired a man that served as his proxy, and that is the one that's interacting with Tonia.
That's right. So episode 4 is like, Tonia is upset because she knows that the documentary crew snitched on her. Then we wrap up a few other loose ends with 2 other people who we talk about, like who are separate chimpanzee owners. Then we get Alan Cumming visiting the reserve that Tonka's on. I didn't need that.
Just to blow kisses, ostensibly, because he can't meet him.
But the final gag is we see that Tonia is calling that proxy director kind of in a flurry. So they go visit her on camera. And we find out that she was mauled by a chimpanzee, one of her friend's chimpanzees. But she says, if you ask me if I'd get another one, yes. And then the final sort of moment is that she says she wants to buy an island, like in Missouri somewhere, to put her chimpanzees, and she wants to live on the island with them.
Which she would pay for by selling the
zoo she's erected that we really spend very little time
the baby petting zoo.
Yeah.
Who she tells people, like, we're always going to have babies. Might not be the same baby, but come back and there'll be babies. It's like, yeah, exactly what Tiger King was doing with, because once these animals become adults, they're no fun and uncontrollable.
I found it tedious. We spend a lot of time with people who I don't think we even need to meet. And then these side stories, while they are related, so let's get into it. We are introduced to the chimpanzee Travis and his owner Sandy, who people might remember. The chimpanzee Travis mauled a woman named Charla, who was Sandy's friend, and ripped her face off. And people might remember that Oprah interviewed that lady back in like 2009, I think. Or 2000. So that's part of the story. Then we meet another lady named Pam, who's like a professional chimpanzee, like wrangler. Like she...
from a family of circus performers?
Yeah, so she tours doing like kind of like circus shows with the chimpanzee. She seems a little more legit with her chimpanzees because she only has like 3. But she ends up... We find out that Sandy, the lady with the Travis who ripped off the lady's face, after that whole debacle, Sandy goes and buys another chimp.
Well, she's attempting to through Pam. Yeah, then she has an aneurysm and dies.
But then she realizes that she can't really have it at her home because the authorities would probably...
Because over in Connecticut, this isn't Missouri. Connecticut is not Missouri.
Because we learned that in Missouri, there are effectively like no laws regarding animals. So you can do whatever you want with animals in Missouri. So that's how Pam and Sandy are connected. Then we get this other lady, the one with the nanny. Who's that lady?
She's the one that the chimp mauled her daughter.
We get another family, like this woman who owned a chimp who, mauled her daughter basically, and they had to kill the chimp. So those 3 storylines are kind of floating around along with Alan Cumming, who I found quite annoying.
I did too. But that last example is the one that the film crew is trying to is saying that this current woman they're following is they're afraid that it's going to end up the same way.
It's Tamara and Buck. That's the family.
Yes, Tamara. They're afraid that Tamara, it's going to be a similar situation because PETA was trying hard to get a hold of Tamara and then they got their
Okay, what you're talking about really upset me because at one point after we've learned that Tonia has Tonka, and after the authorities come to her house, which was very confusing to me, because we get a scene where the authorities are sitting in her semi-formal living room, but then they leave without the chimp.
I'm assuming they didn't have a search warrant.
Maybe. But anyway, she calls the proxy director and says, I was going to euthanize Tonka, but I couldn't do it, but the vet convinced me to do it like a week from now.
Because she claims Tonka has a heart condition.
Congestive heart failure. And that's also important because she's saying that, we trust her because she's a nurse. And then also he looks bloated. So she's saying it's fluid and it's due to the heart failure. So
there's a different reason he's bloated, but
we can get to it. But anyway, she says, I'm going to have him euthanized like in a week. And that's when the crew is concerned because they are comparing what she's doing with Tamara and Buck. And that's when we learn about Tamara and Buck mauling, damn near killing Tamara's daughter. And I thought that was so troubling because what they're implying is that Tamra had her chimpanzee damn near kill her daughter, so the police would kill the chimpanzee.
So she could get away from giving what was I forget.
Buck.
She could get out of having to give away Buck to PETA.
I think that's absurd.
That's a stretch.
That's absurd to imply that this mother
and they
deliberately let her chimpanzee maul her daughter.
Because I think they were trying to explain why she sounded so kind of blasé on the 911 call.
I think that she sounds blasé because she loves her chimpanzee and doesn't want to admit that this was not an appropriate pet to have.
I think there's a lot of that going on with these people.
The opening of the documentary, we hear someone say monkey love is totally different. And that's when I knew we were in trouble.
Well, I kept thinking these people might as well face it. They're addicted to chimps. Oh my God. And that's what I feel like this is what would make a good documentarian, is including some kind of expert saying that this is like a psychological phenomenon. These people that are so invested in these animals.
Okay, we reviewed 2 different docuseries that I feel relate to this. One was that one about the fertility doctor who got a bunch of, and then Bad Vegan.
Well, yeah.
And both of those, I feel like we needed, and in the one about the fertility doctor, we do get, I think, a psychologist talking, but they weren't really pressing these children hard enough for my taste. But anyway, we have a review for that. But even in Bad Vegan, no one is asking the tough questions.
Right.
And that is why I think this feels like fluff that I didn't need. Because really all we're doing is making fun of these people who come across as weird.
And how they are visualized and the things that we focus on. Like this feels like a freak show.
Yeah.
Is what it feels like.
Well, speaking of that, Tonia at one point says, everybody compares me to Dolly. And I scream, Dolly who? Not Dolly Parton. She looks crazy. First of all, I think she looks like if you mix Rebel Wilson with Jennifer Coolidge and then put them in the air fryer.
And come out looking like baby Jane Hudson.
And then her makeup's crazy. That fake tan. Well, it's not a fake tan. She goes to the tanning salon. The wigs are crazy. It's like a blend of like synthetic and human hair. She stacks her wigs. She clearly cuts them. Her bang situation is out of control.
The lips. Mm-hmm.
There's even a point where we see her getting, oh my God, her cosmetician, as they're calling him, who's doing the injectables. I thought he looked like as if he worked at O'Reilly's. I was shocked when we saw the man.
He's squeezing on her lips like, you gotta mold them. It's like,
you gotta mold them.
She's done this before. She knows that.
And then she's talking about how she wants them to look natural. Ma'am.
Well, she said kissable.
I don't think anyone's kissing those lips.
No. What's that monkey's name again?
Tonka
was kissing those.
There is way too much monkey kissing in this documentary.
It's like face sucking. It is. But again, it's just like, it's for that shock value that's like, I can't believe that these people are so close to but why? I'm more interested in the phenomenon rather than seeing the same thing over and over again.
The lady Pam with the chimpanzee circus, at one point we see, because she was breeding chimpanzees, I think, and one of them was a preemie and wouldn't feed from the bottle. And guess what she does? Breastfeed the chimpanzee. Why was she lactating, you wonder? Because she had just had a baby. So she was like double fisting them titties. I just can't.
And then the way her husband described it, I walked into the room and she had the monkey on her boobie. And it's like, her boobie, okay.
Speaking of husbands, the lady who owned the Missouri Primate Reserve before, the one who gave it to Tonia, her husband, that man had his nose bit off by a chimpanzee, and it looks crazy.
It looks, immediately you know what has happened to him. I would invite people, if they like this at all, to watch James Marsh's documentary Project Nim from, I believe, 2011, which I know I made you watch when that came out, but the woman that had the chimp in that was doing sex stuff too.
God. So after Tonia's chimpanzees are seized and Tonka is missing, we see that she has moved on and now she's selling exotic animals, so nothing's going to stop her. I can't say enough how I was so tired of listening to Alan Cumming talk about Tonka, because he acts like he spent a lifetime looking for this chimpanzee. But then he also says, well, I was told that the chimpanzee retired to like Palm Springs. But then he also acknowledges that he goes to Palm Springs. You never thought to look for? Even Tonia says Alan Cumming is full of shit because he never asked about Tonka, never tried to find him. He could have easily found him.
Again, there's a large degree of lip service going on, but again, to me, the job of the investigative journalist would be to challenge its subjects, to at least maybe even get them to look inside themselves and maybe they don't realize how fake they are. Like,
you know who else I couldn't stand? That little gay-ass PETA lawyer who at one point is having his houseboy vacuum his living room while he's being recorded. What was that person's name?
The PETA lawyer?
Yeah.
She kept calling him a little bastard.
I couldn't stand him.
But again, that's the documentarians. They didn't need to show the office being vacuumed. Those are all choices being made. It's just petty. It's just...
Well, okay, speaking of that, I just think from a marketing standpoint, I don't understand why PETA... I know PETA's marketing is typically to be like shock and awe. They like to do those, like activations where they dump manure in front of someone's office or throw paint on fur coats. I know they have really bold market. Well, they used to with the I'd rather be nude than wear animal skins so it's not off brand for them to be caustic, but I think to have two representatives from the organization get on camera and basically demonstrate how petty they are because you were successfully able to seize whatever it was, 12 chimpanzees from this woman who clearly was not able to take care of them properly. And then one goes missing who's like 38 years old. And then the lawyer acknowledges, like they spent all this resource, like they paid private investigators to look for Tonka and use drones and they put in a lot of time and money.
More time and it just seems like more time and money than are invested in finding some missing children.
Well, sure, but I'm not even talking about that. I'm saying like if I donated to PETA, I feel like I would like this is how you're spending my money. You took down like you had a big win with Tonia Haddix. Let's move on to someone else. At least Tiger King, we spent some time with Carol Baskin trying to change legislation, like something meaningful. But in this, there's just no examination of like, we're in Missouri. These people can do whatever they want. So why don't we focus on legislation in Missouri and not this lady with this one chimpanzee? And then the real gag is that we find out in episode 4 that PETA wins a judgment against her for legal fees totaling almost $250,000.
Well, because she lied. She perjured herself.
Yeah, she did. And so she's wrong. But I just think like there's no examination of her financial status. This lady seems to have money. She does explain, because, these exotic animals aren't cheap, and she says she sells them regularly, and she lives in a nice house, a lot of land. We see her driving a Lexus. She can obviously pay for synthetic hair and lip filler and semi-permanent eyebrows. And
the hair, this Halloween, I can't wait for it to come around. We're going to see
I'm tempted to dress like her for Halloween. This is the first time I'm inspired. We even see her getting her eyelash extensions put in, and she's like, oh, my girl's real good. She makes them look natural. Again, where? Natural where?
I don't think we know what the meanings of these
they
words
look like
are.
garage doors. I don't understand what she's talking about.
Again, she is sympathetic, but it's just like, it's like, girl, you're so stupid. Like, you're talking to all, what do you think this documentary crew is filming? They're filming this monkey that
These are not your friends keeping secrets. Speaking of crazy, we find out that she has like Pee Wee Herman voodoo dolls.
Yes, she does.
I saw a lot of memes about this lady weeks ago. And we received so many messages about this damn docuseries. And now that I've watched it, I just think the fervor, it's very much like things go viral for a week and then everyone forgets. It's definitely not as impactful as Joe Exotic and Tiger King.
No, and there's a lot less to go. And it feels very much like we have stretched this out to the limit. But also, I want to hear what Jane Goodall thinks about these ladies or anybody outside of America that sees this kind of stuff and is like, what is going on in this country?
Keith Morrison could have wrapped this docuseries up in like 43 minutes. There's about 43 minutes worth of like really interesting, like, oh wow, can't believe that happened.
Yeah.
The other 3 hours just literally feels like you're trying to, because the other three storylines with Buck and Tamra and Pam and Chuck, Chance, whatever, and Sandy and Travis, we don't need those. All it's doing is demonstrating how violent chimpanzees are.
Yes.
So.
And they are not there to speak for themselves and can't say if they're happy or are in a loving relationship with you. They are not meant to live in your home or on the premises. What's that site you used to look at? Lurid Digs?
Oh my gosh, yes.
I felt like I got so tired of watching some of these people. Like, if you watch this or rewatch this, do yourself a favor and look at the home decor that are in many of the couches, the gasoline cans.
What's that documentary we reviewed about the Satanist?
Hail Satan.
Hail, and like their decor
That's the most interesting
was
part.
distracting as well. I want to talk about the psychic again because Tonia literally gets hemmed up the first time because she texts her psychic that, I was busy, I had to get groceries for Tonka, and then her psychic tells on her, which is so shady. And then PETA runs with that.
And then they run too hard. Yeah.
Well, they run too hard because then on the Zoom court trial, the judge, that gay lawyer.
The lawyer asked her, like, where's Tonka?
And this was the one moment I was like, good for her for being a good liar. She goes, oh, well, I have a Capuchin named Tonka, so I was talking about the Capuchin. I thought that was a gag because you see the lawyer kind of look like, ugh.
She's a good liar for a minute, and then he's like, well, when did you get that monkey? And then she's like, But then the judge even says, I think you're a liar. You've lied many times throughout this situation. You lied on the Zoom call, but I can't prove that Tonka's alive, so I can't place an action against you. I found that satisfying in a way. And then she performs a scene.
Okay, the scene where she starts crying. Then we get a montage in the end of episode 3, after it's all said and done and she gets her chimpanzee taken away from her. We get a montage of all the times she cried and lied about how Tonka died. She even tells a full story about how she cremated him. She has his ashes. Oh.
The ashes that look like cocoa powder.
Okay, we need to talk about what she did with Tonka, because then you're like, how did she transport this 200-pound chimpanzee quietly overnight? She sedated him, and then found this guy in Ohio, I think, named Cy.
Yeah.
And Cy has like a criminal background. He seems real sketchy. She had never met him before. She drives Tonka's ass over there. And then in order to cover up her tracks, this Cy guy had a male chimpanzee that died, and he had buried it.
Ricky.
Do you know what they did with Ricky's body? They exhumed this dead chimpanzee who we're told was 80% decomposed and had been decapitated.
He kept his head.
And it's Cy and Tonia telling the story. And they're telling it like I'm talking about the last shitty restaurant I went to. Like they're giggling about how they exhumed a decapitated chimpanzee carcass, put it in her car, and drove it back to Missouri so that she could have proof that the chimpanzee had died.
And they still didn't believe her ass. So
I think that's remarkable. I mean, that was the one moment that took my breath away. And then the moment where she said, we got to keep him hidden, which the director was like, this is the jinx.
Yes, he thought he had Robert Durst on his hands, except this is nowhere near the level of what Robert Durst was doing.
Before I would recommend this, I would say go watch
season 1 of The Jinx.
Again. If you watch it again. It's still better than this.
I also recommend a 1986 film directed by Nagisa Oshima called Max Mon Amour, in which Charlotte Rampling is tired of her husband and decides to have an affair with a chimp. And she does. And it lives with them. But in the movie, it's a fake monkey. But that...
That Zoom court trial was so raggedy because at one point it freezes. Then, speaking of bloated again, then we get like a 5-minute segment where we have an expert in cremation. We didn't need that. We all know how cremations work. We didn't need someone to demonstrate, because the gag is that she wrote a letter trying to prove that she had Tonka cremated, and they put the temperature as 160 to 170 degrees. And immediately you're like, you can't even cook chicken at that temperature.
The man that wrote the letter
was her
husband, which they didn't disclose.
And then she admits, oh, well, he left off some zeros, which is true that I guess 1600 degrees is what you burn bodies at, I guess. But why did we need an expert to demonstrate?
Just sloppy. That's why I don't think she's good at lying.
Oh, no.
Sloppy.
No.
Sloppy work, girl.
So then in episode 3, we see poor Tonka just sitting in the basement. But the real gag, because she's trying to explain that his poor health is the reason why she didn't want him to go. And then when Tonka finally gets taken away, the new sanctuary, like the veterinarian, reports that ain't shit wrong with Tonka. He's just fat.
Because she feeds them McDonald's.
Can we talk about what she feeds these animals? That alone should be the reason why these animals are taken away from her.
Right.
Chicken McNugget Happy Meals.
And they are so these monkeys are so happy to get...
Oh, she just hands them the food and they know how to unwrap it. They know not to eat the paper, Patti LaBelle. It's just remarkable.
They like Gatorade. And then towards the end, she likes donuts, apparently. That's where it's messy. They're playing that Nina Simone song about put a little sugar in me.
Oh, in that moment, they ask her, is there anything that replaces Tonka for you? And then immediately we cut to her chowing down on Coca-Cola, donuts, and cupcakes.
And she feeds all the animals on her farm
Donuts. She shouldn't have animals.
No.
She shouldn't have animals.
No.
Oh, God, this lawyer again. At the end of episode 3, they bring in the lawyer. And on camera to play him the recording of her admitting that she has Tonka. That just felt so fake and phony and like...
Petty. We don't need to... And then, should we go off record? That felt like Canada's Drag Race when they all nod at each other cryptically. Like, we don't need that. We'd stop doing that, please.
So when the police show up at her house and sit in her semi-formal living room, dining room, whatever, she's on the phone talking to the proxy director. And he's like, were you okay? What are they doing? And she's concerned about her lip injections. She's like, I have an appointment at 4:15. I can't miss it. Wow. Okay.
She is a character... But she should be a supporting role.
The only person in this documentary who I thought made any damn sense was a very beautiful lady who's the one who wrote that Rolling Stone article.
Was her name Cheyenne Roundtree?
I don't know, but she was giving me like if you mix Tina Shea Butter with Aubrey Plaza.
Sure.
She was really pretty.
Well, and articulate. And
yes.
We don't get a lot of people like that.
Not in this docuseries, but I thought she was the only one who kind of made sense. Like, I just called her and asked her, and she was very willing to talk. And she kind of outs the documentarian, which I found was a gag because Tonia didn't know who told on her, but then this Rolling Stone writer wrote in the Rolling Stone article that it was Eric Goode and his crew who snitched on her. And he tries to confront her. She's just sitting there, not plucked at all. And I loved it. I could have used more of her. She says something kind of meaningful, or something else meaningful. She says is that, because they ask her, why do you think she talked to you? Tonia talked to the Rolling Stone. And she just said, I think she just likes to talk.
She likes to talk, and she can't help herself.
She can't help herself if she's given an opportunity to explain herself. Which, my overall feeling about Tonia, what was yours?
It's hard. I don't agree that she should have this monkey, but she's also... she's sympathetic. Like,
yes.
I feel for her.
Yeah.
But I also believe that she can't help herself, and you could put all of the hard evidence you need to in front of her, and she's not going to listen. I mean, she even tells... She says several times that she loves Tonka more than her own children, and her own children are aware of that. And it's like... I think that she needs to be treated in a way that it is made to realize that these beliefs are incorrect.
Her children expressed that it bothered them that it reminded me of Crooklyn. When On Song's dog dies, and she's like, I can't live without my baby in front of her kids. So we see Tonia's kids saying that it hurt them, that she cares more about these chimpanzees. So...
But I think that's the kind of sickness of it is, like, she liked having her baby, she loved them, and she likes these chimps because they are never going to be able to leave. They will always need to be taken care of. They're always something she needs to tend to. They are eternal children, essentially, to her. And that is the toxic part of it. You can't do that to another living creature.
Yeah. But, I mean... we have a pet. I know people treat their pets like children, and I don't think that's crazy. But I also feel like there does come a point when they become a danger to you and others. You're not able to properly care for them. And not unlike human children, you kind of need to know when you need to ask for help, which might include them being removed.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, even though I think the docuseries did a poor job of linking everything together, the evidence is there that adult chimpanzees are dangerous.
Not domestic animals, no.
And these exotic animals are not intended to be domesticated.
But there's a reason for it.
Right.
Like everybody's bitching about PETA likes to take animals away. There's a reason for it.
I don't have anything else to say about this docuseries. What would you give Chimp Crazy?
2.5. I think this could have made a decent 80-minute documentary.
Oh, 100%. I would give it 2.5 out of 5. Anything else?
No.
Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.